allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as is required by Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, with respect to the homeowners contribute to publish the same. This announcement must be entered into the minutes of the meeting. For those attending the meetings today, please be aware that all board meetings are recorded via audio. Roll call, Linda?
Chairman Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin?
Present.
Commissioner Katz?
Here.
Commissioner Mossman will be here today. Adoption of the minutes, Rebecca.
Will you accept the motion to approve, or adopt the minutes of all of the meetings that are listed? July 2nd, July 7th, July 17th, July 23rd, July 30th, August 3rd. I don't think it lists the June first meeting, which was
It's the first one.
June 4th also. Oh, I'm sorry, it said at the beginning, I'm sorry. All the minutes that are listed on the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Roll call, Marie?
Chairman Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin?
just one comment, please. Does this end all of the minutes that we have that will be on the end outstanding or anything like that? Yes.
Commissioner Katz?
Yes.
Old business, none. New business? Oh, we don't have Elaine Flynn here to discuss.
She said if she could call me,
Oh, okay.
so if you mind if I'll put her on file.
Okay. The discussion on the burgundy ballot box. That.
Those are the existing boxes that we put on there.
No, yes.
Hello?
Oh, Deborah, it's Tom.
Hey Tom, yep, you have me and Elaine here.
Okay, we're in the meeting and I'm with the commissioners and members of the public, okay?
Okay, you're here.
Okay.
It's Tom.
Yeah, it's me, Elaine, hi. You have the commissioners and we're in our public meeting, okay?
Okay.
That's right.
We're waiting for it. That.
No, we don't have to. I just want to say.
Well, I think it's good to have
Okay,
it.
I'll grab it from my office.
Maria's getting.
Maria, wait for it.
Oh,
I
sure.
think
All
there's
right.
one right there. Right up there.
Is Maria, are we ready for Maria to bring something in?
The bag, so, just to have the bag here in case we have any questions of what we want.
Got it.
Well, I guess we can start asking questions. I just want to have the bag here.
I get it.
So do you want to start? We can start asking questions.
About the bags?
Oh, yeah. No worries. Elaine? Deborah?
Yes.
Okay, just can you give us an update on the bags for the general election?
What do you mean update? What do you want?
Are we using the same bags in the general election?
Yes.
Are we using the same
The seals.
seals in the general election?
So we will be using the same, sorry, this is Deborah. We'll be using the same seals, but we will be updating how they're closed in different ones. Like the burgundy bag on the side where you open the entire bag, it'll be sealed with the same seal, but we will probably add more protection, whether it's a padlock or a zip lock to prevent people from opening it.
Well, that would be the original, it's the red seal that's not supposed to be touched, right? That's the way it's supposed to go down.
Hear you.
The red seal is the original one that's put on there when you sent out, and it's not supposed to be touched. It's the blue seal that's added when we close it, right?
It's the opposite. The
Either way.
blue seal is sent out, and then the red seal is added on.
At the end of the night, or? Can you
Is
explain it to us
the
again?
red, I guess the problem is we're in a very large room, so I think our problem is we're gonna have a hard time. So the question is, the red seal is at the end of the evening
It's at the
that
top.
goes to
Right.
lock the bag, is that correct? Close it.
Correct.
And is that the same seal that you're planning on using for the general election?
Yes.
Okay. The change of seal then would be would be the blue seal that you're thinking of possibly updating. Would that be correct?
Yes.
And you're going to be ordering, so the blue seal, when you do that, we have to change any of our instructions to our poll workers or anything like that if you change the seal?
No, because they shouldn't be touching it to begin with.
So that blue seal, when I'm sorry, Don, I'm just,
Yeah,
you want
but
to go?
isn't that
Okay.
the seal, that the poll clerks have to put on?
No.
That's- Okay,
Okay,
It's
so,
the top
so,
fine,
so,
okay. I don't
so
care.
just to make sure, okay, this is the end of the evening seal?
Yes.
This is the end of the evening seal. This is the seal that comes,
Pre-seal.
pre-seal, thank you, pre-seal. Okay, the pre-seal, we'll call it then, is going to be changed, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
The pre-seal.
But it's the end seal that has been the problem.
it's both.
Both.
Oh.
But primarily, the blue
The
seal
end
is the
seal
one
is
that
more important.
we think
Okay,
is-
but we had problems with we'll call it the whole thing, but initially the blue seal, the original seal that has been locked. So you're going to be changing that seal.
Yeah, it's going to be the same seal, but we're going to add extra protections to prevent it from opening.
Okay, but our problem is the same seal was the one we had issues that we saw in our experience hauling the bags around, that those seals did not hold up to the pounding, let's call it, of just moving those bags around.
Yeah, so that's why we're going to have that seal, because that seal is the one that closes it, but it's going to have other additional, whether it's a padlock or a zip lock holding it all together so it can withstand that. But the only way to lock that bag is with that seal.
We understand it. So there'll be just additional protections in addition to the blue seal that will allow us to have additional protections to make sure the bag will not open
Correct.
or be compromised.
So there'll be
Right.
something to say, I didn't forget about the colors. The pre-seal will be the same, but there will be something covering it and protecting it,
Yes.
right?
I think that's what they're saying.
Which is something that our poll clerks are not supposed to touch it at all in any event.
So poll worker.
The other seal, which the poll clerks have to put on at the end of the night, what is going to happen with that? Because we lost both of those in the travels of getting the bags back to us.
So the question is, at the end of the evening, we'll call it the red seal, are there be any improvements to the final sealing of that bag?
We're looking for suggestions. We still haven't come up with the final plan for the red seal.
Have you talked, Rifkin is the supplier of the bags and presumably the seals. Do they have any suggestions with the problems that you're having?
Can we put some simple instructions on the top of the bag
We have,
for the poll workers? 'Cause
Well, they put it
that's the
on, but it
problem.
broke off. Some of this, they put the seal on and part of it broke off at times during the process.
We had some preliminary discussions with Deborah and Steve in terms of putting bag-specific instructions in the plastic seal where you have
Yeah,
to identify
exactly,
stuff.
that's what I mean.
I mean, it's in with the poll worker training, but,
They
Yes.
don't look at it, Tom.
well,
I know, and we created checklists.
yes, we
The
were
red
ready to check
checklist
this,
too,
and we could spray paint it on.
Right, but
It's the
we have had, would say the pre-seal, forget about it. The seal is that's what's put, the pole clerks put on at the end of the day. We had some of those seals that the prongs were still there, but it was broken. So it wasn't a question of the pole clerks not putting it on properly, or they put it on because you saw that the prongs there broke off.
Yes.
So the issue is, what can we do to make sure that that doesn't happen? And since Ripken is the supplier of the bags and the seals, have we told them the problem and asked them what the solution is?
Could we,
Let him ask that, because he asked the question. Did you ask that question at all of Rifkin?
What question?
The question was at the end of the evening, the red seal, we had some issues about it actually breaking. Was there any question of Rifkin, the manufacturer, on protecting that seal from breaking?
So one of the reasons that we know that the seal broke was because maybe the bag was too stuffed. So one of the solutions is to have an additional bag in some of these locations that we know we're going to be getting a lot of them, or we can give people extra seals and make sure that we include the information there that if it breaks anywhere when they're sealing it, when they're transporting it, like in this election, we did make ourselves available for people for us to drive to them and provide another seal.
The problem here is that the seal that's given has a number on it and it's put on it, right? If you give them more seals, then there's nothing to reflect that it was not open and something was taken out and then replaced it with a different seal. So we don't have that security part of it. The second part of it is the bags that we had issues with for the primary that came back. We saw each one of those, and none of them were overstuffed. That was not the problem. Am I correct? It was really, that was not the problem. So overstuffing of the bags was not the issue. In fact, we had, I think, 3 bags that came back that were empty because they didn't. Right. So once again, has Rifkin been at the manufacturer Rifkin been asked about some either better seals or something else that will take care of it, not just having extra seals, because that's a security issue.
I don't think she heard it.
Are you still on the phone?
Yeah, I'm not, we can't hear since it's far.
Okay, so you're speaking, because you're right to ask her
Okay.
succinctly, that's okay.
Have you talked to Rifkin, the manufacturer, to see if they have an answer to making sure that the seals don't break?
Not yet. We have not been in contact with them about the red seal.
Okay, well, we need it as soon as possible, because if we're going to train poll clerks, we're going to need to make sure that our training is consistent with whatever seals are going to go on there.
We certainly will.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh,
Were any of these bags overstuffed?
we have to talk about what to do with the balance, the voter mail balance that went back to the,
That's not that, that's not that good, it's not that, so we're okay, we can talk about that. Tom, you anything else you want to talk about?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Elaine, Deborah, thank you very much, okay? We're going to continue with our meeting, okay?
Thanks.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I can't find them.
I know.
Which one's Linda?
Pick it up and hang up. That's the easy.
I have a suggestion.
Let's see, Tom, do you want to give us an overview of
With
the
the-
executive order rules?
That, I went to go look for actual seal. If the poll worker actually, seals it up, I wanted to see if a piece of tape can go on top of it and kind of bash it around a little bit and see if we can break it. Because if all it takes is a piece of tape, we can even have the clerks do it when it gets back. Have the clerks have a couple extra seals, just in case it gets back there, and then they can easily put masking tape over it or whatever it is, and it won't go anywhere until it gets
Well,
back
we'll
here.
have to have some chain of custody if it's, what, who's switching the
Well,
seals?
it's gonna be
or
the
whatever.
same chain of custody as
Yeah,
it
but
was,
it's
because they're
separate.
bringing it back.
There's going to be a seal number that's put on there at the polling location,
Okay.
right? If it breaks somewhere along the way and the clerk replaces it, there has to be some paper record to show that
But that
X
was
was
the problem.
broken and the clerk
Yeah.
put it on there and signed it or whatever.
That was the problem, they didn't have the seals and what location
Nobody
they were
had
at.
extras,
They didn't have
yeah.
that information,
That was the big problem.
yeah.
So I'm just wondering if masking tape will do it, because if they do have that at the polls, but even if poll workers forget, it's very simple for a clerk to look for that, because they know they're getting these bags back.
Assuming it hasn't broken before it got to the clerk.
Correct. I mean, that's, you know, our first line of defense is the clerks, it's not the poll workers. We could do the best we can with training them, and we will. I could throw that into training, no problem, and we'll make sure we train them up for
Were
that.
supplies given at the polls and masking tape was given at the polls?
Usually is, it's usually in
Yeah,
the
Was
It's
it
got
done,
instructions.
was it done for this primary? I'm just
No.
asking. No,
I-
because it,
well, I don't
it's not
know.
because of, no, I know the reason why, but
Yeah.
it wasn't given for this primary.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Honestly, I don't know.
I don't think so.
But I mean, they're supposed to have something to hang up the signs.
Right, right.
So I think the towns usually do that, the municipalities are responsible for that, we don't usually hand that out personally.
The towns provide that.
Tom,
Because my opinion would be that masking tape is, if you're gonna do any kind of tape, you should really be doing for specifically that, not for hanging signs. Specifically, it should be something like an electrical tape or something like that.
Of course, something thicker, I was just
Right.
thinking.
No, I understand,
What you have.
but if you're going to be able to read, if you put that on there, you're going to be able to read the seal number?
Don, the problem is that they're gonna try to get a knife, Rifkin. It's their responsibility to provide us with,
That's fine.
okay, the security. And I don't know, you're right, if we put a piece of black tape over a number that we have to read, obviously we can't read
And
that
then we
number.
take,
Not until-
and then we take the tape off and the seal breaks as we take the tape off.
I don't, it's,
I don't know, I got it.
But it wasn't, but the tape still kept the seal on, which means it wasn't unsealed.
right.
As long as the numbers aren't printed where the tape's gonna pull up the
Yeah,
numbers.
That's why I did masking tape, because you could see right through it, that's the reason that was.
And it might be a way of getting there are different type of tapes that you can buy that are clear, that also are stronger than a masking tape. That's all.
But if we do that, then we have to
And
provide that.
shipping tape is very strong.
Shipping tape is another thing that's strong, right.
And it's clear.
It's
Tom,
clear.
will you keep on the county clerk to make sure that they get this?
No, you're right.
I mean, there's tape with serial numbers on it.
You could use that too, yeah. I mean, then we're talking about asking poll workers to put it on or why.
Yeah, you can't ask them to do too much, I tell you.
Okay.
When they put the tape on it, they can break the seal. I mean,
Okay, we'll move on. Tom, the executive order, you want to give an overview of that?
Yeah, again, you'll have copies of it, so I'll just, and I know you all reviewed it, just,
Anything different from the primary?
well, a couple of different from the primary, and again, small tweaks here and there, but again, not enough to go over. So again, a change from the primary, and again, you wouldn't really have it for the primary to general, but all public and secondary schools are going to be closed to in-person instruction. So that'll provide us a better ability to securing polling places on November 3rd. In terms of polling place, assignments, one caveat that was in the primary executive order that is not in this one was the depending on poll worker availability. So that was removed in this executive order. So, polling places had to be 50% of the county, one per municipality, depending on poll worker availability. That's not within this executive order. So in terms of, again, in terms of recruiting poll workers for the election day, I'm sure the state is going to say you can use the National Guard or some other means to provide for that 50%.
well, let me add something on that part of it before we move on to a different one. The difference between the primary executive order and the general on this, that one says 50% if you get to. This one says 50% of the polling locations. It's very poor, in my opinion, it's poorly worded because it says 50% of the polling locations, not up to or whatever it is. But it says if you can't do that, then you want your other polling locations large enough to be like a vote center, so you get more people. How that two intertwine, I don't know. From my perspective, I'm not sure we want to do 50% of the polling places, so because I'm not sure whether we need them if we really are pushing people to vote by mail. Because we had, what, about 10,000 to 15,000 people voting provisional and about 100,000 voting by mail.
14,000 provisionals, what was it, 12,000 that are actually counted when it was all said and done. Over 60, 60 polling locations. So again, something that we're going to have discussions with the municipal clerks this week in terms of evaluating executive order, and we'll have to work with them in terms of identifying polling locations for the general. The next item is one that I think you guys have obviously communicated, is that the polling locations will be designated as locations to receive voted mail-in ballots. So I know that our staff and everyone has questions regarding how that will be implemented, and whether there are bearers involved, whether or not how would they go along that process? Is it a separate container that we need, or we use provisional the burgundy bag for the mail ballots as well? So something we'll have to. And again, the caveat is that we're awaiting a conference call with the state to kind of review the executive order and kind of go through some of these questions. We have not, one has not been scheduled yet for the boards of elections. So we hope to have some of these questions answered for you in the short term.
Can I add something on that one? I mean, we're still subject to what the order is, but I think for purposes, I'm not going to speak for the staff in terms of this, but for security purposes, and if we have to do that, I probably think it's better to be a separate bag. Although there's still, no matter what we do, even if we have a separate bag, they're all going to end up, at least some are going to be mixed in each one. So I don't know whether does that mean
I just think that might be a little bit too much, because you're gonna have the blue bin, you're gonna have the burgundy bin, and then another bin. Plus the
If you had a
supplies.
choice,
I would
would
say
you
put it in
prefer
the
them to
same.
put it all in the same
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
Okay, that answers that question, so we're not looking to,
And
not
then
looking to
when
get.
you don't separate them out till like the following,
No, the next day. The
The
next
next
day,
day
we'll
you
take
do.
the mail-in ballots out first and process them.
all right.
But I think we'll have to have instructions that the voter physically puts the ballot right in the bag, because we have no, if they give it to a poll clerk and the poll clerk either purposely or by accident loses it, we'll have no record of the person having voted, and they will not be voting provisional because they voted that way, so the vote could be lost. So it should be important that if we do that the voter physically puts it in the bag.
Our poll workers do
Which
not.
is they
Not
do
the
with
poll
the
clerks.
provisional.
Like the same thing, that's the
Yeah.
provisional.
Yeah.
That's specifically that they put it in.
Correct.
And again, something from the primary, it hasn't changed, but again, the ability for the Board of Election to continue voting past November 3rd without seating a court order has been extended for this election, obviously. The cure procedure, again, this is particular to our commissioners, that I'll read it verbatim so you have it. It's number 16. In order to expedite the signature verification process outlined in the county boards of elections shall meet at least 4 times per week starting October 13, 2020. Voters whose ballots are rejected pursuant to Title 19 and that there'll be no extension provided. So again, it's just a continuation of the process in the primary, but just highlighting that for the commissioners.
Except we have to have more readings to do this. And the one thing we should note on this, we got court order extensions in terms of counting for the primary. The executive order specifically says no court order extensions, must finish it by November 20th, period.
So you stole my thunder, that was my last point.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
There will be no extensions deadline as sought within the executive order. So again, a lot of the waiting timeline restraints are extended as they were in the primary. There's some things in terms of the hotline number and some public's understanding of the rules for the general election, but for the most part, it mirrors a lot of what was in the primary executive order.
Oh, there is one more thing that's relevant, but not really relevant to us. The governor moved up a number of the dates that are statutory dates in terms of the date a candidate can resign and be replaced, which was normally about 2 or 3 weeks later in September. It's now in August. That's just in case, let any respective parties know about that in terms of replacement. It's not, it doesn't affect us as a board.
That's it, Tom?
That's
Yes.
it.
Yep.
Steve, do you have anything to report?
I'm actually clearing out some of the primary stuff inside the machines right now, that went out to 130. Let's see, I took part in doing surveys with the municipal clerks, with Wendy. We're just going over some things, their general experiences of the last election, just simple questions we had as far as our communication to them, and the overall feedback was actually very good, and very positive, and we were kind of going to incorporate that together in a report. Thought I'd be finished today, but I think Wendy has like 1 or 2 more, so I'm going to jump on and help her with it tomorrow. She didn't get a hold of any of them. She's kind of waiting on a couple of clerks, that's it. But otherwise, we got pretty much everybody. And then I'm just still like, kind of moseying along because it's mostly me by myself, but cleaning out the warehouse with all the stuff. And, trying to make space. I got $500,000 ballot order for the machine ballots. And that's coming in. I gotta make sure I have shelf space for it and stuff. So I'm working on that and just doing it when I get time. That's like my spare time actually. That's basically it. So I just trying to be proactive with the training. Wendy's been a huge help, very very big help. And hopefully we can get some kind of trainer class together and get this thing rolling. And this way we can incorporate everything together and hopefully we have the idea of what we're doing with the bag and so on and so forth. And Valerie did send me a picture message of, there's some tape seals if you want to take a look at those. That's from Rivian.
The tape seals. the
Yes,
new,
they have barcodes on them.
Replacement for,
Well, just on, if you want to throw it on top of that, you will have a seal that way, but I don't think they stick as well as far as if you're connecting it to the bag, so.
so instead of the seal breaking, the seal will fall off.
Well, I don't know that, I mean,
Maybe.
they would have to play or mess around with it and just
I
figure
got
it
it.
out. But it's just an idea.
It's really
Do you
a
want to see it?
disappointment. Rivkin has been in business for like over 100
Yeah,
years.
yes.
And they're, I've
That's
never
kind of
thought
what they look like
It's a
there.
barcode, it's a
Yes.
barcode with their, right.
So it has numbers and it's, you can at least have identifiers.
That's your report, Steve?
That's it.
Okay, Linda?
Okay, I just wanted to bring to your attention that Perth Amboy is having a runoff election December 1st. We decided we're not going to talk about that till later.
It will happen.
I don't know the details, she just told
There's
us.
no question about it going to happen, because the candidates have to get 50% of the vote for it not to happen, and there's 5 candidates running for mayor at least, and there's 3 or 4 slates, so the likelihood of anyone getting, of both the mayoral candidate and the council candidates getting 50% of the vote in the first race is infinitesimal. So we will have it.
We'll talk details later. We had some issues with the statewide system. Some reports weren't generating correctly, but we're working with Noe to make those corrections. So some of the open requests were slow going because of some issues, but we're working with them. The staff's been working on updating the mail-in ballot and provisional ballot information. There's probably under 17,000 MVC records. Last time I counted, there were 2,000 registration forms that we're working on. Then there was 20 trays of the postcards that came back, in lieu of the sample ballots. We're working on sorting them, and there's address changes. Then the county clerk contacted Administrator Lynch about the mail-in ballots that came back. Approximately 30,000 mail-in ballots came back to the county clerk, which we now have to look at for address changes also.
So 30,000
So-
out of perhaps 300,000 would make it.
Yeah, that's sort of like what we get in the sample ballot anyway. We get about 40,000 back for every election, so. And then the pre-election, I just wanted to put some issues that we were having. The system for receiving mail-in ballots, and especially bearers, was extremely slow. We must have had at one point 12 people working on it for days. Then come to find out that it wasn't just SVRS, it was the county server, because we had our own election server. So IT came in and took us off the county server, election server, and put us on the county server. So our speed went from like 8 meg to 100 meg, which improved a lot, but that was after the election. So hopefully moving forward, we won't have the slowness that we had the past election.
So SVRS could work faster based on.
Yeah, we haven't been able to test it because we were done.
No, I
So
got it.
hopefully moving forward, it'll be much faster. Because that just took days to do sometimes we were days behind because it was just so slow. I mean, you're talking like 12-hour days, just doing nothing but barcoding. And then I just listed how many cure letters went out and how many came back. We did revise the cure letter because we found out that it was a 2-sided letter, and sometimes when people sent it back, they only sent the back part back. So we had no idea what town they were in, it was just a signature. So we had to take the ballots that were in town order, put them in alphabetical order, just to put them back in town order to get your, rejected counts and all. So we revised the letter so that it's one page, so when they send it back, we can have a barcode and we can see who it's from.
One side and one
Yeah.
page.
Yeah,
Only 711 came back?
You mean
yes.
they, it was a 2-page letter and they just sent back the
It
second
was
page?
the second, well, if they scanned it in and sent it,
Oh,
sometimes they just sent the back
yeah,
part,
okay.
or they faxed it,
Got it.
so it was a little difficult.
Not worth the effort.
So it took us extra long to figure out who they were, so sometimes you couldn't even make out the handwriting. And then there's your Dropbox, how many came back from the Dropbox?
I have a question on the Dropbox.
Yes.
Who picks up the mail ballots at 8 o'clock?
At 8 o'clock, we had the warehouse staff,
Warehouse staff.
yeah.
They do the whole county?
Well, the municipal clerks went out at 8 o'clock and locked it with the bar. They couldn't open the bottom part where the actual ballots are. They only have that bar that locked the top part, so it prevented people from putting it in. And the warehouse staff went out and picked them up election night.
No seasonal for years.
No, ma'am.
There
No,
were, yes, ask on the drop boxes. So we have 11 here.
And I have the
Yeah.
chart with details who
Right,
picked up.
At some point, the executive order requires that we have at least 10. So we meet the requirement with the existing ones. Do we, is there any thought to getting more, or are we happy with the ones we have?
So the 11, 5 were provided financing from the state, 6 were provided financing by the county.
So, but we still have them.
Yes, they're all installed, they're not going anywhere.
Right.
So we hope to get another 5 to be financed from the state, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're waiting to hear back from the state in terms of asking that question in terms of financing for the 5 drop boxes.
And then the county will have to make a determination, so that'll bring us to 16. And then we'll ask the county, since we have 25 municipalities, if we believe as commissioners, the goal would be to put 1 in each municipality, at least 1 in each municipality. Then we were going to need 16, we'll need another 9.
I'm not sure, just thinking about it, this is not a determination, that more in drop boxes in general would be good, but necessarily 1 in each municipality would not necessarily be a difference. I mean, we have about 100,000 people in Edison and Woodbridge, and we have about 2,000 people, and not registered voters, in Palmetto. So a drop box for X number of people in an area, within an area, is probably good. I mean, maybe we want, in Woodbridge and in Edison, maybe we want 2 or 3 drop boxes and just 1 drop box in the greater Edison-Jamesburg area. No, I don't know.
Well, we're going to have to talk about that.
Right, I'm just, I'm raising that as a thought, not that this is what we should do, but
we
the
are
concept
getting
is,
requests.
I will say, I'll look at 2 points to that is one with the, again, not making any comments, but with the recent discussion about the post office nationally, a lot of voters are reaching out via email and phone calls, and one of the first things they're asking is, are there drop boxes in Middlesex County? So there's, if people weren't interested before, they're interested.
having more drop boxes is a good idea. Just the question is how we space them out, so
Sure.
so it's as convenient as possible to each voter in general.
Our clerks that don't have them are very receptive to getting them. In my surveys, it was one of the first things they talked about. I tried to send them all and have them email Tom so we can kind of get a centralized information on who wants them, but
We did a
getting
survey
a
with
lot.
clerks asking for information.
Lots.
But the other aspect is, I'm sure what Nick last is whether or not seasonals were used, but in terms of picking up, and again, on presidential, we would want to commit to picking them up on a daily basis. It takes hours to go around and just do the ones that were just there now.
Kathy and I went out, and it took us 6 hours to pick up like 5 of
So
them
that's just for
originally.
that was for
We
the
were gone.
10, that was for the 10 or 11 that we had. I would say, we wouldn't want staff being dedicated for 6 hours a day, every
Right.
day, doing that function. That may be something that we would want seasonals to do, so that we would have staff doing what they should be doing, which is just the mail and balance,
Right.
provisionals, and voter registrations. So, again, part of the discussion we had.
I don't really think we need more drop boxes, because if somebody wants to vote, they're gonna find a way to get their ballot there. I think, maybe I'm misled on that.
I think you're gonna find a lot of, as I think Tom said, there's gonna be a lot of groundswell right now that people are not gonna have confidence in the postal service. So the problem will be is that if they don't do a drop box, the only other place right now to bring it would be to the polling place. Or here, but then here, if you're saying you live in Carteret, you're not gonna drive down East Brunswick. Or you live in northern Woodbridge, you could, but you're probably not going to. But, so you try to find a drop box.
I mean, Edison, Metuchen had the drop box before Edison did.
Right.
Edison people were going to Metuchen.
Right, no, that's because, that's true, but the only thing,
So
the other
they'll
thing
find a
is the polling place.
I think if we're looking, if we're going to get more drop boxes, we should just, as opposed to like per municipality, we should just look at where they are, maybe a map of the county of where they are, and see if there's, even if it's the second one in the town or something, and try to put them.
The bottom line is, I would prefer to see staff pick them up than seasonals. Thanks.
Can I just tell you that Sharon is telling me that a lot of phone calls coming in, people are happy about dropping it off at the polling location, which is more convenient for them.
The drop off?
They're, drop the ballot off at the polling location, which is more convenient, it's in their town.
The problem with that, for our purposes, is we'll get more process
yeah,
after
of
election
course.
as opposed to before
Of
the
course.
drop box.
Well, we do tell them about the drop boxes and we tell them in person.
Yeah.
So we get all different type of phone calls where everybody, they're happy with the drop box, they're happy to come here or at the polling location. They just don't want to go to the post office.
Yeah.
I think the feedback right now of the drop box is actually is, if anyone who decides they want to just look at it and kick it, touch it, things, they're pleased with, they're pleased that it's not a flimsy little box of some kind. It does look a little bit like a mailbox in the sense, I'd compare it more to like a library drop box. And those library drop boxes hold a lot more than a regular mailbox anyway. So the feedback I've gotten is that they like the look, they like where they are, they like they're secure, they like there's a camera on them.
Yeah, exactly.
They seem to be in a place where it is easily accessible. So I think right now those drop boxes that we have and the locations that we put them in have been, I would say, generally a success.
So they're all there now, stayed in, but with the something seal limits no one can put in.
There's a bar with a
Right, the
lock
bar,
on it
yeah,
that
yeah,
nobody
yeah,
can put anything in.
But so can you send, at least I'd like a list of the actual locations of each.
They're on the website. If you go on,
I'll send it to you now.
Okay.
That's all right.
Because I want to if it's better for us to get them in the drop box than on election day or later, so we get it earlier, it's pays to promote the drop boxes. So I'm gonna, at least I will promote them amongst whatever people that I know. So,
I
we get them
definitely try
earlier,
to.
we can process them
The
earlier.
drop box.
Hmm?
I said, I try to with the phone calls, I definitely tell them, that's one of the, first places I tell them to go.
Are these essentially all at municipal complexes?
for the most part, right now, they are, yes.
Yeah,
Because they're the ones who have cameras. You're not going to put something,
and they have the security.
any other security, and we got to make sure they're secure. So that's, and they're
The one in
24.
Perth Amboy, is that municipal building or?
It's at the
Yeah.
municipal
Police
court
complex.
court complex.
The police
Okay.
complex, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And the issue we ran into in terms of locating them is that not a lot of buildings within a municipality have an outward 24/7 camera system.
Oh,
So
that's
you're kind of
good.
limited
Yeah.
which would be found. We didn't have as much locations as we may have thought.
Any more, Linda? That's it? Okay, Tom. Before you give your report, Tom, I would like to see the deputy administrator at the next meeting and the following meeting of November.
She's on,
She where?
I have her conference now.
Or you have it conference? Okay. Okay.
Hello, I'm here.
Okay, Valerie,
Give me 1
we
second.
didn't know that.
That's what she sent me pictures of the tape, she's listening.
Yeah. Give me just 1 second, I'm just sending Commissioner Katz and everyone the Dropbox location.
You can do it now, you can do it later.
No, well, it's freshman. Okay. So again, not on my report, I forgot to include, but I'll restart off with the discussion we had during the last ballot review hearing regarding the marked ballots. So Linda was very kind enough, and Maria as well, to put them into categories, each of the ballots as you guys were going through them. And then we shared them with the Attorney General's office, so we'll read feedback on the scope and the different marked ballots.
The marked ones?
Yeah.
Did you hear back?
What's that?
Did you hear back?
I have not heard back, much like everyone's on vacation this
My
month.
guess is 90% likelihood that they'll just say it's a discretion of the commissioners. But there might be a 10% chance that they'll actually tell us something, so that's good.
And also along with Valerie Fran and Mike Mantello are also on the conference. Just COVID, just changes from last time. Sneeze guards have been installed in every cubicle permanently. Before they had the drop-down sneeze guards. Now we have permanent sneeze guards in each of the cubicles for office staff here at the office. As you guys were aware of staff realignment, so that was staff was working remotely on Friday and Monday so that we can return to new locations for some of the staff starting today. In terms of communicating November planning things, some of which we've already discussed. I did want to bring to your attention something that I've discussed with county IT is and something other counties are exploring as well, is that for our letter openers, the large one that we had that opens the ballots very quickly, is that in terms of reducing the amount of time that staff has to do with receiving mail-in ballots, is examining, attaching a high-speed ballot barcode reader to the letter opener. So the vendor that supplied us with the letter opener came back and said that their engineers had identified a company whereby they would be able to attach a barcode reader to the letter opener to scan the ballots as they're coming in. So the staff potentially, 20 people at a time, doing one at a time, reading the ballots. This would read it in a large scale, and create a large file which we would upload to SVRS. So something we're trying to work through county IT on, as well as the vendor for SVRS. My perspective would be it's easier to upload one large file as opposed to thousands of smaller ones, but that's just me. So again, in terms of reducing the time the staff is doing something manually, something can be done a little bit more automatedly, something we're examining for November.
Good.
Within your packets is something when we discussed, which seems like a lifetime ago, February, regarding in terms of advance of the November election, was the state was heavily invested in security upgrades, both cyber and security, physical security-wise, for the board. And so as part of our coup plan, we had identified an assessment in terms of our physical security here at the board and at the warehouse. The state had come in pre-COVID and done an assessment, and also at the warehouse, some ideas that they had in terms of improving the security here at the board for staff and also for the ballots here as well. They had come up with some recommendations. The dollars which came from the feds are still with the state, so they're still available. We're told by the state that we should identify, what we would like to improve, how the county invests in that, we can get the county being reimbursed for those improvements. So we've identified a lot of them within the packet that you had, and we hope to have a lot of them in place before November. Everything from card readers at the door, to security cameras, to increasing the lights, exterior lights in the parking lot here, as well as at the warehouse. So in general, just best practices in terms of this physical security communications.
Is it on? You lower that?
Here?
Now, yeah, here,
No,
here.
it's not working. You want the
It's not
fan on?
working?
You want the fan? I can keep the fan on. Sorry.
Yeah, I will, I just didn't know if we had air conditioning. We don't have air conditioning? We don't have air conditioning?
Don't want to give you mouth to mouth, Felicia.
You send me away?
Resuscitation.
Do you want me to put it over there?
That's fine, that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah.
Sorry, we got issues.
It's called nuns.
Just saying, some things from pre-COVID, the website is live. Staff, in terms of working remotely, had given us a lot of feedback on the website in terms of reviewing and offering edits. So we have a meeting set this Friday with County IT. Valerie's going to be on the call as well to give input in terms of items for November, incorporating a lot of the adjustments we want to make to our site and the Vote 2020 site, which has a lot of the information for the primary and the November general election. Lastly, ES&S, in terms of our vendor for the voting machines and our election software, they've been on site the last 2 months doing a lot of the hardware installation in terms of here at the board, the county administration building. They made trips out to all the municipal clerk's office, absent maybe a couple of here and there to, again, for the election report results transmission that we used to have with Dominion in terms of being transmitted here electronically. Same functionality, just again with the new vendor. So that's been ongoing. That'll be in place for November. Of course, the transmission of those results will be a couple instead of 100,000. But again, for future elections. So that's it for the.
I have a general question for the administrator. I know there was discussion, or there was reference to us really needing more computer scanners.
I was going to say, that's in my report,
know.
but we've had many conversations. And first of all, IT's been tremendous throughout this whole election. They've been really helpful with us. Yeah, we talked about the staff at the college, they need scanners, because they need to scan the forms and the signatures. So we've been talking about that. So we're going to come up with a list for IT. They were out at the college today.
Well, it's a question of what we need, it's also a question of funding.
I will say this, the county, as Lynn said, the county has been very, very helpful.
So,
Yeah.
so right at this point, we're just fine, just deciding what we actually need.
We identify our needs to the county, and the county is very responsive.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're moving that.
They're out there within like hours sometimes to help over at the college. We've had some connection issues with the Wi-Fi, which was the college IT, but our staff, our IT staff has been tremendous throughout this whole thing.
Okay, so that's not an issue.
No.
Okay.
I don't see
We're
something.
going to have more laptops.
More laptops.
Again, in terms of discussion, in terms of seasonals, in terms of conversations with IT, we don't want like 140 laptops. That would be kind of hard for us to manage to even store, but at least coming up with a base of laptops that we can have for the seasonals where you can have multiple users on a laptop. That's something we're talking with IT in terms of trying to, they don't like to assign multiple users to a laptop, but they're for the selection.
It just makes it difficult having just one user assigned to one laptop and keep using everybody else.
So a lot of this we'll get information next week. Okay. Commissioner comments?
Well,
Okay, Tom?
personnel, I think I sent everybody an email earlier today with some articles about the National Guard and the National Guard being used in anywhere between 7 and 9 counties in the primary as a supplement. And I think that I wanted to talk about it, but I think it's going to be very difficult for us to get 140 people in the next couple of weeks that are going to be willing and able to work 35 hours a week for roughly the next 2 months. So we should get as many as we can, but I think if we can get the National Guard to come in and be part of this, that would be a good thing. A couple of things that are good is one, these people know how to follow orders, and if they're supposed to be somewhere, they're going to be there. So those are positive things. If they're running around trying to find a lot of people now, I don't know what level of people we're going to get, or in terms of, people that are actually going to be responsible in terms of showing up and making it happen. So we should do it, but I don't know. Is there other comments on that?
Don, if you extrapolate what we had for the primary and take that, and we need minimum 3 times the amount, okay, that's where that number comes from. So I think it's incumbent upon both of our parties to put that as a goal, that we need to find 140 people. And by the way, it's just not, when I say 140 people, it's also, it's shifts. So
I
the
know.
shift, so that it's not just a person working from 8 a.m. to
Right.
9 p.m. like our staff does. It's someone probably working from 8 to maybe 3:30, somebody working 3:30 to 9, or I'm making up
Right.
numbers, and we have
Weekend,
people
we
who
take
are working,
work all weekend.
people working
There's
all
lots of
weekends and
different
making more
pieces.
than 10.
Yeah.
So when we say people, it's probably hours instead of people. When you translate people into hours, what will happen is we're going to need, so we're already behind the 8 ball. So that's why the goal, I think, is for 70 each for
Well,
each party.
I understand the goal, but I don't, on a practical basis, I don't see either party in the next 2 weeks going to get
Well,
70 people.
I think
I
it's
know
a-
what we will aim.
but I think the problem here is that we have to say to our party leaders, okay, which one is right here, okay, is that we have to, it's an all-out goal here. In both parties, which we need people. So I can't say that enough. We are going to get, we were not even bombarded by any municipality except for one, basically, in the primary. And now we're gonna have all 25 that are gonna bombard and want to know what's going on, plus the press, plus everyone that's looking at us, plus a condensed will be, they want no extensions past November 20th. So if you think, if you think in 17 days, where it took us 30 days to do a primary, if you think 17 days we can do it with not enough people, I can tell you, I know we can't do it.
No, well, that's why I'm
Now, with the
saying
70 people that we had, were they dependable?
Current people we have now?
No, not the current people, the 70 people you had for the primary.
you mean on election day.
Yeah, 30 and 30 or whatever.
I think some came late, some didn't show up, but not even.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
But
And
that's
that's the
why- but
problem
that's why-
we're going to have again.
But that's the goal of having more people. When you have more people,
Right.
okay, you will see where those people, you'll find out there's very good workers, you'll find out there's good workers, and you'll find out there's people that are, let's say, are not as good, whether they're not as good by their work, their dependability. We know that, and I think the staff's done a very good job in managing whatever we had in order to bring these people in. So that number doesn't go away.
No, I understand.
Okay, but I'm just saying, there's
So
some,
built into that number is the fact that you're gonna have people who flake and people who don't work out.
Right.
So, and it's not, we built in a buffer more and above than what we probably need, but I think that's.
I'll be candid with you, I don't think there's as much of a buffer as you think. Okay, I'll give you my opinion. I don't think, again, with what we had and the people we started, and you extrapolate those numbers, those are not, although they sound high to us, okay, I believe when you look at it, based on what it takes to make this election run, okay, and where we can start this election, I don't think that's a lot. I don't think it's a lot.
We're going to have to do 3 times the amount of roughly 3 times, might be 3 times the amount of processing and counting that we did for the primary in maybe 17 instead of 27 days. That's what we got to do. So we need the people to throw at it. I guess the question I'm asking is, do the other commissioners agree that we should ask the National Guard so we can fill in spots, because I don't think we're gonna ask, but I don't think either
I
party is
think the
gonna.
National Guard, Don, if I'm not mistaken, the other counties were done for at the polls.
No,
I don't-
there was, if you read one of the.
I read it,
articles,
I read it.
the-
But
they
I
were
think, no, I'm
acting-
saying most of them were done, were working at the polls.
So this is one of the articles was before, like, I think the
No,
Monmouth County
I'm just
Board of
saying
Elections.
most.
Yes.
I'm not giving you a percentage, I'm just saying most. So that's, listen, a worker is a worker. Is that a better worker? Sure.
At least they'll show up.
Well, no, at least they'll show up, but then again, that's an ask that we would have to ask on I'm sure every county, now that you've read it, I'm sure every county board of elections has read it, and I'm sure, the governor or the staff is looking at it as a possibility, but I don't know how much they realize how much it takes, and where they're best equipped to be placed. Anybody that we have, okay, we need help. I mean, are we gonna get the poll workers? Are we gonna get the people that are working inside on results? So it's a good thought. I think it's something we need to investigate. If we can get a commitment that there'll be bodies, we will determine where we're gonna need those bodies.
Well, I think, do we agree that we're gonna ask?
And then what?
Or do we agree that we're going to ask for help from the National Guard as much as we can get?
Can we request
Request,
people
however.
that are computer smart, know what they're doing?
Right.
Can I just say one thing? The current seasonals that we have now are working out very well. And but I know it's not enough, but at least they're experienced now. So moving, as trays are starting to come in, we'll have them set up, then the new ones will be learning.
Great.
So,
Well, that'll, more people we have
Of
to
course.
do that is good, because we're gonna have, we actually looking for 140 people.
well, yeah, we're gonna need a lot more.
People that are gonna supervise 150 people in
And
training.
we have some good seasonals that
Right,
can
so
do
we
that.
need to do that, so,
Yep.
the benefit of having, National Guard people is.
It's not a bad idea. We have more on working now than we did when we started the other. I do not plan on having a delay in numbers coming in as happened for the primary. So I'm assuming that if nothing else, we'll get the numbers buttressed sooner. And if we're working immediately, even if we're not getting the crunch in of the balance, because it's not what, March isn't it? October 5th, right? Possibly earlier. I was just told today it's possible that they may go out earlier, the actual balance, because our county has worked well in putting that together, which is good. I think that getting started with a better plan as we get the people, I'm not saying don't look to ask about that, the only problem for me, I don't know what that entails. I believe that doesn't the governor even have to get involved in something like that? And this, to me, is not the emergency like saving the streets of Detroit.
He authorized for the primary, I imagine he would do the same.
He ordered it. Some 60 counties don't want it.
I'm just saying, we have more now to start with. than we
That's
did
what I
before,
said,
so that's
right?
good.
And if, I know what I came up with,
Yeah.
We have no.
3 people already.
I know we're gonna need more, but at least we have the good start, you know? So, yeah, because last time we didn't, we
But
didn't
we're
rank
dealing with 3 times the number of ballots we're gonna have to deal with in roughly 2/3 of the country. And that doesn't work out with the numbers that we have at all. So if we can get people from if we can get the National Guard as part of the filling part of this, and the parties get as much as we can as well at this time. I just don't think either of us are gonna get 70 people in the next 2 weeks.
It's a different time. We've got a lot of people who are not, whose day is not as encumbered as it had been during, prior to the COVID crisis. And we is there an age limit?
it.
An age.
You don't take anyone
limit.
over 101.
An age,
You don't
thank
take
you.
anyone over 101.
What about high school children?
Well, you can be 17 and work as a poll worker.
You can be a poll worker, but can you help in here and be looking at names and
I know.
addresses?
I don't
I
know.
don't think there'll be, I mean. it would be-
18 or older, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's,
I just needed, somebody asked me that question, and the other one is the actual or part of the job description posted online? My response to persons whom I've been contacting is always the basic elements with which I'm familiar, that they would be trained specifically to do specific positions. In some instances, some keyboarding may be necessary, and that they would not be working alone. Is that correct?
Well, they won't be when they're being trained, but there's also physical
They have to take
lifting
this.
stuff. No, physically
Oh.
lifting and moving and sorting and carrying,
I-
and not
obviously.
just data entry.
We have a.
But my age thing was for younger, not
I
older.
don't know about the seven.
We have a job description,
Where?
Valerie was on, we had done one for poll worker recruitment, as you remember back in,
Right.
earlier in the year. So again, part of the request was, and again, we haven't gone move forward because you haven't said anything, is that we put together a job description for seasonals. So, again, as you talked about in terms of recruitment, if you wanted us to be able to backfill positions, as we head towards whatever, deadline, we'd be able to do job listing for seasonals. So we at least be able to offer Middlesex County residents the opportunity.
I don't think that there's, I'm not positive, but I don't think there's anything in cutting out a team that requires big minutes. The poll folks, generally, there's a 17 or 17% point to that. And the only question is whether sometimes there's an age in terms of work, that there's a maximum time that can work. So I know there's some issues about that. And we want, I guess everybody we want is seasonal. It's going to work 35 hours because
Between the hours
it's
of
going to be
7 and
unreal
7.
as it is.
Right.
So,
But if they're in school, what are you getting after school?
right. Well, I mean, I don't know if that can work.
And that's not ideal in most instances. I had just been asked that question, so.
Any other comments from the commissioner? There being none, we'll move on to public comment. Councilor Charlie.
Hey, it was your birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yes, members of the board, Charles Cradaville, New Brunswick today. Have a few items to ask you about. Just bear with me here. First of all, I do want to say thank you to you for your service and all the workers at the board. I know that this is a really difficult time and people are having to navigate some difficult situations. Glad to see the new rule will allow people to drop off their mail-in ballots at the polling location. That's something I've been advocating for, and I'm glad finally that can be achieved. In terms of poll workers, you already touched on the executive order requiring 50% of locations to be open unless they open some type of voting center. I think we should make it as easy as possible for people to vote, whether they want to do the mail-in voting or the election day voting, and I think we should even pass legislation to enable early voting to take place so that we can, deal with the deluge of participation that's going to happen. How many voting machines were used? Did I hear 130?
It was, I sent out 130, 65 we used, because I had an spare.
Some people, okay, so
So that's it.
There were
Like,
65
we're
that
supposed
were
to-
open.
130 deployed, 65 were actually had votes
That's
cast.
the number of polling places we
No,
have.
no,
So-
we didn't have 65 people voting on the machines. but we
No,
had
65
places.
machines.
Polling places, we had 65
Yeah.
polling places.
65
And we had-
machines.
So you have to have one per to be
Right,
Right.
ADA compliant. So
correct.
that's what we did.
Gotcha.
But how many people actually voted on the machines? I mean,
And so the machine, I had some, I cleared the ballots out just this past weekend, and we had a few in some, and then we had none in most, because they had to declare that they were disabled.
Correct.
That's the only reason they
So
were able
I
to use.
heard that there was like 20 or 30 total.
It was a little bit bigger than that.
Nice, like 75? I can do a
75.
report. I can do
Somewhere
a
around there,
report,
yeah. That sounds about right.
75 people voted
I
on
didn't count.
65.
Approximately,
Yeah.
approximately.
Sure. So,
Approximately.
Approximately.
thank you. So, I agree that executive order could have been worded better. One of the shortcomings of it is it just says 50% of the normal amount of polling locations. I think we can all kind of agree that the best number to use for what the 50% is the 2019 general election. Do we have that number of how many polling locations there were?
Not exact, but I'd say around 258 or 257.
So 250 plus, meaning that 50% would be 120 to 130, maybe
Or
more.
say polling locations.
Right.
That's, right.
I think we have 615 districts, I learned from the sign you've got out there, but, it's on the thing, yeah. But, so is it realistic to expect Middlesex County to
Is
have
that still valid, that number, Linda?
100 and, let's say 130 polling locations? If that's what the order calls for, and the only other option is to open up the voting centers, what path do you see the county taking here?
Well, large voting centers, basically, we're talking, the instructions on there, we're talking about larger,
Right.
like you're talking about a school gymnasium or auditorium, so you've got more space, so you can have more people coming in. In other states, there are other states that have the voting centers in lieu of individual districts, but they have lots of machines, and it's set up in such a way that people can come in some of them are anywhere in their jurisdiction, county or local, they can come in and vote at any one of the machines they want to sign in.
It'd be countywide.
Yeah, we're not necessarily, I'm not sure what we need to do. We have a different ballot face in every town.
Right.
Right, so we need at least something in every town, and it's possible in the larger towns, rather than putting in 50% of the polling locations, we may
One or
work that
two.
better with several ones where we're in large areas, so we can accommodate more people at the same time. I don't know, we haven't discussed that.
We're gonna talk to the clerks,
The more polling locations we have, the more poll clerks we need.
we're gonna talk to the clerks, and we're gonna come up with something, Tom, setting up a conference call with you, so. But we don't know anything yet, to be quite honest with you. We just got dropped this too, like everybody else, so we don't really know for sure yet. I know that Tom is gonna work to do everything we can, like we did the last time, and I hope that people receive that we had enough polling places for the primary very well, and Tom really pushed that aspect, really pushed it. And I know he's gonna do the same again this time around, and we will be willing to work with our clerks and help them in the way we can.
So we had, how many people voted in divisional, about 18,000?
It was, when it was also, it was 14 and change.
So,
That's
on a
16.
rough back of the envelope thing, assuming we have 3 times as many people voting in the general than in primary, we're talking about 40.
No, I think the number will be less, because more people will be voting by mail.
Right, well, but it's unlikely to be more than roughly 42,000 people voting going to a polling place and voting, which is a lot less than, in past years. So it's a question of what we want to do, and we have to talk to municipal clerks, et cetera. So.
Well, I recognize there's a lot of moving parts there, and I appreciate all of your work to do this. My suggestion would be as many locations as possible is ideal, because the more locations you have, the easier it is for people to vote, and the less the size of the crowd is, and the less problems that can ensue. On the voting integrity piece, I'm curious about these ballot bags. Is this the first time they've ever been used because of the situation, or?
This past primary.
Right.
They were purchased for this past primary.
Okay, so I may not have been at that meeting. Do you have enough of them? Are you satisfied with the purchase?
99%.
It's the county clerk.
Oh, it's the clerk. Okay. As far as the outdoor ballot boxes go, I agree that those are a good option. That's what I not only did I put my ballot in there on election day, but I waited until 8:30 p.m. when your guys came by, and I made sure that everything was on the up and up, and so I think that was a welcome, addition to the process, and I think anything we can do to get more of those is good. So it sounds like there will be at least a few more.
Yes, that one, did you say yes?
It's within the, I could talk.
Yeah, don't repeat, okay. Don't waste time.
And then,
This is my delivery.
just as in in terms of the problems with the bags and seals, I hope that gets worked out, because I know that's been an issue with provisionals before and all these other things. Were there ballots that were spoiled or that were not counted because of seals?
Not because of the bags. Our commissioners accepted the all provisional ballots that were within bags that had issues in terms of the seals.
So the seal didn't force you to reject it.
Accepted them for review.
And then were there good, I mean,
Not
there were
accepted
ballots that
No,
were rejected.
we
for-
accepted.
Right.
Not
To
because of-
review.
If the
You
seals
didn't roll out the
were
whole
missing
bag.
or broken, we accepted the ballots
review.
for review that were in the bags.
Thank you.
Okay. And,
We're always on the same.
and just to be clear, there were no issues with the outdoor ballot boxes? Did any of them overfill? I heard Piscataway was kind of full, but
No.
they were able to accommodate the
No,
thing. And how many times did you pick them up? Just the election day, or
No.
no? Daily?
Really?
What's the deal?
Okay, and I heard that would have to be the plan again.
I think, we did get notification from the scouter, there was a lot, so we got an extra trip out to them. I think it was like 4 or 5 trips out.
Okay. In terms of transparency, I think it's really important that people be able to get the results as soon as possible, and I know that's really between the clerk's office and the public, but I have brought up some issues there, and just in terms of like fulsome records of the election for someone to be able to do an audit, I will have you know that I've filed an OPA request quite some time ago to get the list of rejected ballots from New Brunswick, May 12th election, not even the primary. I haven't asked for really any of those records yet, but I have not received that. I'm told that's due to some of these problems with the SVRS system, and it was mentioned during that there's been some delays to responding to OPA requests because of that.
In terms of the results, that was kind of clerk, over, not clerk.
I found out the results of the race. I know the
In terms of what you're asking for, is that from?
whose ballots were rejected and for what reasons. And I think that's an important transparency piece that people should have. Shouldn't have to wait, weeks or months till after the election to see whose ballot was rejected and why. I know the May 12th election was very hasty and rushed, and there was a lot of changes happening very fast, but I would hope to be able to get a substantive response to that OPA request soon. I guess maybe, Chair, could you ask the Chief Clerk when might I be expecting a response?
I did email you on the 6th,
Mhm.
telling you there was an issue with the report. I'm just looking at my email. It was telling, I can absolutely give you that report, but the problem we had was it wasn't giving you the rejected.
Just said
reason.
other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take what I can get. If you could share that with me, I'd appreciate it.
You just call me anytime, Charlie.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Finally, online voter registration is supposed to start September 4th, and I know that they're using the same company that did the SVRS system that there's been all these problems with, and so I'm hopeful that'll get online soon. Do you guys have any insight into how the online voter registration will work, or you're
Stay run.
in the same boat as me? Okay.
It's in appropriations tomorrow. Money for it.
Oh, interesting.
It's
Thanks.
up for a vote.
Okay, so the last point I want to make in terms of transparency is the website. I know there was talk of a new website. It's not live yet, is it?
It's live, it just needs to be, staff gave us input, so we need to update it
Okay.
going forward, but the structure of it is there.
Okay, because I'm here and I see, one piece of information that would be crucial that's not here is the meeting schedule. I see it has a board schedule, but it only goes through July. This meeting is not on there. Future meetings are not on there, not advertised. And I think that at a minimum, that should be up there, as well as the recordings that you're making of these meetings. I know it's a work in progress and there's a lot of things going on, so I don't mean to be a pest, but I do think that the website is one way that you can showcase what's going on and what you're doing, and give the public increased opportunity to be aware of it and give input on it. And so I hope that, in this time when so many people are really losing confidence in the system and so much is at stake, that this board and the county of Middlesex can step up and be transparent about how the elections are being run, and do all you can to make the information easily accessible and the vote, the right to exercise that voting right, accessible to everybody. So thank you for your time and hearing me
Excuse
out.
me, can you say one thing?
Of course.
I did send you the list. August 6th, I sent you the list. I knew I sent it. It just doesn't have the other reason. So I did send it to you.
You did send me the list?
I did. It's right here. Charlie, I apologize for the delay.
I got the letter, but no
It's
no
on
attachment. There was an
New
attachment.
Brunswick Regular school. an Excel spreadsheet. I'll forward it to you right now.
If you can, thank you. And that's all. Seriously, thank you for your service and for getting back to me.
When somebody sends a messenger, I don't know if this rule still applies, they're allowed to come here and bring up to 3 ballots?
Yes,
What?
Excuse me, it's not messenger,
by messenger.
not messenger. Talk about bearer.
A bearer?
Fair.
Okay, excuse me, I'm not as, you know.
I just want to clarify.
Okay, so how
I
about,
knew what you,
Let it finish.
go ahead.
how about at the boxes, the ballot boxes, who's to say somebody's not dropping off 20?
Theoretically,
No, I don't want theoretics, I want an answer.
theoretically, there's
camera.
supposed to be a not beer more than three ballots.
Okay, so then
There's nobody
who's
that's going to
monitoring
check
that?
The camera.
And so we'll be able to review it. Can
Yes.
we see what happened, have an example now of reviewing a camera, just to make sure it's all in order for November? I guess, is it kept on record here?
Chairman, maybe I'm not following. Are you talking about the drop boxes or at the?
The
polling
drop
locations?
boxes.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Because how do you know, you'd like to see
We don't know.
who's putting that in. I mean, if you have to come here and sign and only allow 3, well, that should be the
Right.
case for the drop boxes also. And who would monitor that?
That's a good question.
So could I get an answer for the next meeting? Find out who would monitor the drop boxes to make sure that a bearer or
Right
a...
now, nobody. There's a
Well,
camera on the box.
There's a camera on the
Yes,
box that's
it does.
maintained by the municipality.
So then, okay, can
But
I...
what she's suggesting is that the review of that, because the
Thank you.
camera needs to be,
Well, again, we would,
it needs to be reviewed regularly so that the camera's fresh each day.
Or just reviewed that it worked
Yeah,
back then,
right?
and wherever they are. Okay, so that's the kind of thing.
So we could ask,
And how it would be
borough
addressed
clerks, each borough.
if there shouldn't be more than 3 ballots dropped off in a box. And then what happens? If it's caught, you know, what happens if that happens? I almost find it sad, all this money was spent on these beautiful voting machines. I went there, they work, and now, how many we used this past election? Under 100?
65.
65, and all that money and time and technology that would guarantee transparency and safety of the vote. I encourage you and I urge you, you guys all worked on this, it's a little bit crazy, you know? So, I ask that you encourage, not all this vote by mail, send it to those who request. It saves money, it saves all the aggravation that goes along with this.
You're speaking to the wrong group.
No, see, you all know, and I've seen how hard the work has been here, and the emotions that go with it. But, what you call it, yeah, send a letter to the governor. You know, ask him to reconsider. Send a letter to anybody. This is really a lot of unnecessary things, especially since we invested all that money in the machines. As far as what's exactly gonna happen, there's bills going up. Charlie, I think I alluded to you, a bill's going up for appropriations for this tomorrow. You know, to have this. A bill's going up for early voting, 5 days. There's a bill going up that says, when a ballot comes in, you'll get a letter that says we've received your ballot. Does that come on this place?
Or I understand.
Who does that? The county clerk or the Board of Elections?
There's a lot of proposals.
County
I know there's a lot of proposals.
County clerk.
That's gonna go
Okay,
through that.
just, you know, these things come up, so whatever ideas you're floating around might be changed within the next month. And please, and we can stop that or try to put a break on that if we encourage that whoever wants to go to the polls, go to the polls. You know, when somebody drops off a ballot at the poll, are they gonna have to sign the book like a voter?
Not that I'm aware of.
Probably
How do you
not.
know who that person is? That's dropping off the
They didn't do
ballot.
it in the primary.
Well, you don't, so
We didn't do that
one
for the
ballot,
primary.
they're allowed to do that.
These are questions we have for the state.
Right.
Okay, but you know what?
We can take these
What
down.
you
and we can
didn't,
add-
right, no, I appreciate it. What wasn't done at the primary, this and that, those are lessons learned. That, you know, it wasn't done, well now, this is gonna be a bigger election, You know, and so I hope that these things are looked up. Well, I visited like 17, I think 19 polling places. Who is supposed to make sure that everybody's wearing a badge? That the poll workers, that the poll workers on election day are wearing their badges indicating their party.
Is it just challengers that necessarily?
No.
Poll workers are issued
Okay,
badges.
in South Amboy, here's what I was told, and excuse me, I have the floor, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm the one who interrupted. I
Okay,
asked
but then
the question.
Don responds to you.
I apologize.
Yeah. In South Amboy, nobody had a badge, nobody had an identification, you know, with you. And one poll worker, I didn't put in a complaint about it, but let me say something. I don't have to tell you who I am. I don't have to tell you what party I am. They had to come, really, you got a call that day. They had to call the clerk in, they had to call the police in, and myself and Senator Thompson were there saying, it's supposed to be. But it winded up that the clerk took the blame for it and says, oh, I just didn't print them out. That can't be. In North Brunswick, you know, I asked somebody, you know, oh, your badge, and she said, listen, I got 2 badges. One said Republican and one said Democrat. And they said, here, you pick one. And then, well, she said, she actually, and I got her name too, and I'll get you their names. She actually got a badge of one party who she couldn't stand. She said, they gave me the wrong party. I ripped it off and threw it away. She said, and then they brought another one. So there's got to be some checks and balances on who's working the polls and what their duties are, or what their...
Chairwoman, you did bring it up to me, I think, the night of the election.
Yes.
But I did say, for me to respond to that, you would have to give me those locations and those names, so I'd be able to...
Well, you got the
make
report
those
from South.
exceptions.
You know, you got the report, you got the call from South Amboy.
From the clerk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's at the polling place who said she didn't do it? Okay, so,
See, I can speak for Edison. The clerk goes around and checks the badges.
hey,
And
let me
that's
tell
the
you,
poll workers.
who surprisingly did one of the best of the towns was New Brunswick. When I went there, they had all their little numbers every 2 hours, everybody had their badge, and they were all like, you know, were nice to each other.
Where's this?
New Brunswick. And, you know, they always have the bad rep of whatever.
Only because of him.
Yeah.
Are you
And then,
smiling because you...
whenever this, again, I encourage you to write a letter or get it in writing, that we don't do all this all by mail. Cost effective, transparency, and just what a pain in the neck it is. You know? When it happens, and there's the 2 locations here and at the college, you know, I filed that complaint. Why is there such political party disparity at the 2 locations? I believe in Middlesex, and I know COVID was the excuse, okay? But what happens is somebody on that team gets COVID, so now they're all locked. And then you could lose the whole party. I don't care what party it is. You know, there should be a little closer look. No, actually, there should be definite direction. We are the Board of Elections. We are bipartisan, and we, from the top of commissioners down to the very poll.
Our president has been absolutely adamant about that. So I'm sure you will not have a problem from here on in.
Okay, thank you. And then I sent a complaint in, and I never got even a response. Did all you guys get my complaint? It was a personnel complaint, no names, but did you, I don't know if, did you all get it? Because
Yes.
nobody, if a person has a complaint, doesn't anybody respond and at the very least acknowledge and say, this has been received and will be reviewed or something? Who's in charge of acknowledging taxpayer complaints with the Board of Election? Who acknowledges that? Is that who's supposed to? I sent out a letter to each of you, to the administrator and the deputy
Well, I'm
administrator.
not going to handle any personnel response from you regarding that, which is why I wouldn't have answered that, but I assume somebody would have sent
So I don't want to assume.
a note that it was received, no? No?
I do not respond to the chairwoman's.
Is that your job though, Tom? No, Tom?
I mean, I could,
You could,
yes,
out of professionalism or out of courtesy?
for professionalism.
Okay, good. So please they'll be getting another letter. I guess I'll send the lady the names of the people in South Amboy and North Brunswick. And I don't know if I'll ever get a response to my complaint, but I hope so. Thank you very much.
I answer one question. The latest executive order provides in paragraph 9, a voter may return only the mail-in ballot that they personally voted to their designated polling place. So if a voter on election day wants to bring their vote by mail ballot to the polling place, they can only bring theirs. They're not permitted to bring anyone else.
Right, how about to the drop boxes? How many are they?
Yeah,
allowed
that's
to
what
bring?
she was
There's
questioning.
no
That's what I
change.
was
The
questioning.
drop box, there's nothing that changes, nothing in the executive order that changes the.
Let me say, I have a friend who works in Elizabeth, and he took a picture, it was in Middlesex, so, of 20 ballots on the floors in front of the projects.
That's different, that's a whole.
Who's to say somebody doesn't pick up?
Because, okay, so they picked them up.
And-
You know how meticulously everything is checked here.
I'm not just talking here, I'm just talking in general.
Okay.
You know,
Well,
like,
I'm
in
going to
certain
hope
ta-
that
no.
our boards of elections are.
Okay, well, you know what, we can only hope, they can only be overworked so much, checking things,
Well, but
you
we're
know,
handling
so.
our situations.
All right, well, I'd like some checks on how many people are dropping stuff off, and, you know, could you review that, any of those, videos, many of the locations, have at least one come in, review it, and see how it works.
I suggest we just ask for a schedule from the borough clerks, if they can let us.
We're just
Just to
seeing,
suggest it to make sure, okay? And that they sign that everything was fine on the day that it was reviewed.
no, but we'd like to see if somebody's dropping 10 or 5
Well, I
ballots.
mean, the person who's responsible can check the video, and if everything is fine, then I would just sign that everything is fine.
I know, but what if somebody comes up with a little
Then
pocketbook?
she wouldn't sign that everything is fine, she
Oh,
would
how,
say there was this person.
who would do that, here or the,
No, the person who's checking it, I assume in each borough,
Well-
each municipality.
right, well, that should be checked by someone here, I would think, because someone
If there's
here,
a question, of course it can come here.
okay, but if someone here should be checking the 3 people, or the 3 names, somebody at the polling place will be checking the 1 ballot. You know, and it's all done from board election, people, whether they're poll workers or not.
The drop
So-
box is considered like a mailbox, even though it's not.
Right,
And you can go there and put as much mail, as many ballots as you want.
right.
But those are not, that doesn't follow the
It's something that
guidelines
has to
of,
be considered, I can tell you that.
that doesn't follow the procedure of handing the ballots.
But that's in person.
Yes.
When you bring it in person, it's the difference. You have to fill out paperwork here.
The drop boxes were instated and put together as mailboxes, except we will go pick them up front. I could, you can't stop me from grabbing, like, everybody's mail and throwing it in now, from taking all those ballots. and
But
delivering
it's a legitimate question to say, why is one person bringing 10?
Right, like
No, I
I get a
understand.
ballot,
It's the same reasoning for not accepting it
But it's
in
not,
hand.
it's not in
That it is,
person.
exact.
That's the only difference.
Right,
I know,
let me-
but the-
let me say this, I got a ballot for the person who I bought my house from recently. She died 5 years ago, you know, and I could have very well signed that
But
ballot.
it wouldn't have gone through.
Well,
You understand what I'm
The
saying? I mean,
signature.
that's why I said to you, the care with which these things are reviewed. Yes, try. I mean, I would venture if you did 20 illegally, we would touch every 20.
Well,
Right, in some towns, it's a difference of 2 votes. You win or lose an election.
I had a Taiwan election, that was bad.
No, yeah,
I did.
but,
I wound up winning.
I know, but you know what I mean, like,
That's what I did.
it's, in some towns, we know a vote or 2 or 6 brings it to court. Mhm. So anyway, thank you for your input.
Okay, before adjournment, we're going to go into executive session. So,
Are we meeting or they're meeting?
I guess we'll do it.
Motion to go into executive session?
Okay.
So moved.
second.
Where are we going?
Well, no, you're not adjourned.
No, it's moved to go.
Oh, okay, all right. Yes.
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 Yes.